see each other, why we love each other, why sometimes we don't. But the song is inspired by a moment that I had with my grandfather when I was a very small child, and changed my thinking. So my granddad is a guy named Donald Harrison Sr., right? Where I'm from in New Orleans. He was a big chief. He was the guy that was the only chieftain of 4 different clans of black Indians in New Orleans. Now, when I was little, he would do a very strange thing. Every couple of weeks, he'd come into my home and he would take all of the food out, right? If it was a steak, it left. If it was a piece of gum, it had to go. And I watched this behavior for 8 years, and it took me that long to muster up the courage to actually ask the chief what it was that he was doing. What I learned that day changed my life. He made me fill the bag up and walk this incredibly heavy bag to the corner of Desire and Galvez, which is only a couple blocks from where I grew up. When I got there, what I saw changed my entire view of the world. I started to see elderly people, older people, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, right? My elders, I'm like 11 at this time. They started to line up for the food, and he started to ration it off. They were elderly, but no one cared if they ate, right? No one cared if they bathed. No one cares. I started to see little boys and little girls, small boys, 6, 5-year-old boys that were responsible for feeding their families, that were out there doing all sorts of things to try and figure out the best way to make sure that maybe their 2-year-old sister eats. Some of them were responsible for feeding their parents. I saw families with mothers and fathers that had multiple jobs that didn't have enough money to feed their children. I learned in that moment that just because you don't see something in your face doesn't mean it's not real, the pain that people go through. I learned that hunger is real, right? Food insecurity is real. He emptied that bag out, filled the bag up, went to the store, went through the neighborhood gathering things, and then walked to the next neighborhood. And then the next neighborhood after that. And maybe by this time, a couple other men had bags and they were walking. And by the time that we finished, we get home that night, my body is hurting. I never hurt like that. From carrying all of this stuff and watching that, I think there was more going on than just the physical pain. But I asked him, why was he doing what he was doing? Why wasn't the mayor doing it? Why wasn't the president doing it? I'm 11 years old. This is how I'm thinking. And what he told me was that he said 2 things. First thing is that you can't build a tribe. This is a guy that was a chief of 4 different clans. My uncle has been chief for almost 22 years. Joe is a member of our tribe. This is our spy boy. I'm so excited about running together this year. But he's been with Donald for what? How many years have you been out there with Donald? 5 or 6 years. So my uncle has been chief. I have a cousin that is a chieftain of Urbana, and then I was coordinated as chief this year and learned a lot. Learned a lot and had to reevaluate a lot about how I see people and how I interact with people and what loving spaces we can build as opposed to all of this divisive stuff. He said, you don't build a tribe or a community or a city or a state, a province, a nation, a country, a world with hate. You build with hate. It always needs something to feed on. I don't have to explain this to you, right? Everyone sees it, but we still make choices that feed it, right? He says, if you build with love, you build with a sense of welcome, then whatever problems you have, you can figure out a way to negotiate your way out of it. Some of us think about the loving relationships, the amorous relationships of your life. If you build with love, something goes wrong, you try and work it out, right? The second thing that he told me in that moment, and the more important thing I think in the short term, was that if you see somebody going through hunger, if you see it, if you see someone being accosted because they have a different religious belief, if you see someone being berated because they're a woman, or someone being accosted or berated or treated belittlingly because they are gay, then you're seeing it for a reason, and that there's power in your seeing it. Now, everyone in this room has had a moment of maybe indifference and also had a moment where they didn't act. That doesn't make you a bad person. That's not what we're saying here. What we're saying is that we have power to protect each other. Where I'm from, we have allowed the political landscape, the political arenas, the social arena, the cultural arena to become inundated and flooded with people that have highly hateful and bigoted views. We've allowed them access to taking rights away from people strictly because they believe or see things differently. And part of this happens because we don't protect each other. I'll give a quick example. Does everyone in your country make the same dollar when you work, or do women make less? I'm sorry, I can't hear you guys. Women make less. How much? 16 less. Wow. Okay. America's fucked up too. Sorry. 2 as well. That's fucked up. Have you ever seen a group of guys having a beer talking about that? If your husband won't protect your right to have equal rights, it's pretty hard for you to expect him to protect the rights of other people that aren't in your house. Doesn't that make sense? Does that make sense? Yes. So the idea is taking care of each other, actually taking care. Maybe she doesn't need you to be the macho guy that's gonna go fist the cuffs in a bar because someone touched her shoulder. Oh, you touch my woman's shoulder, I'll kill you. Maybe she wants to make sure that she can feed your children. Or maybe she wants to make sure that she can put some money away for when you are old and elderly so you won't be hungry. But she can't do that without your help. So the idea is, if relationships that close can be that far apart, then all of these relationships need mending. Our generation has a profound opportunity in front of it. We can actually be the first generation in the world that goes about the business of wiping away and eradicating all of these old ideas that didn't serve anything but building a power structure that clearly has already failed. Relinquishing power is also a part of this conversation, right? I had an experience recently, 2 days ago. We're really talking this out right now, but I had an experience a couple days ago. I woke up in the morning, I pulled up the laptop, it's talking about they're impeaching Trump in America, and maybe he's gonna start World War II because his fingers are little and he keeps tweeting. That's what the article is making fun of him, which I don't think it makes sense to make fun of someone that dangerous, but it's my opinion. I was over it. I closed the computer down, I walked downstairs, I wanna just go in and get a morning coffee. The first thing I see when I'm walking into the store is 20 people dressed up as Black Pete. Now, the thing is, that shit's not fucking funny. It's not a joke. That is some of the most, hold on a second. I appreciate it, but let's really talk about that. I'm a guest here, I don't live here. That is some of the most grossly racist shit I have ever seen in my life. And what is deepest about it to me is, you have this moment where you say, because as I'm walking in, I see this, obviously I'm offended. It's not that I'm angry, I'm actually hurt. Which is different than I think what most people assume, oh, the person is angry. No, they're not mad. They see how you see them and it hurts them, right? I'm trying to avoid this because I'm in Holland, I don't have any rights here really. So I'm just gonna go and get a coffee. But that's not enough. It's not enough for them to be outside doing it. Now, they want to impede my progress and dance with me. And my hair is cool, and all of these things. Now, if I get upset, if I give the reaction that is actually commensurate with what they are doing to me, then I'm wrong and mad. In this moment, I grab my coffee, and one of the persons that was about to don the blackface comes up to me and asks me why I look so upset. And he says, "It's not a black thing, man. Black Pete fell down a chimney. He fell down a chimney and put big red, bright red lipstick on and afro hair. Don't insult my intelligence, firstly. Secondly, don't insult the intelligences of your children. They're smarter than you think. They're looking at that, they're watching that, they're learning it. They're learning this is acceptable behavior because my mother does it and she thinks it's a joke, so it must be a joke. It is not a joke. You are hurting your own children. If you don't care enough about me to look at it and say this behavior may be weird and it hurts someone else, or maybe I'll stop, then at least think about what you're actually doing to your children's lives. Because they're not walking into a worldview that says that that's okay. That's okay in Holland. They can't walk down the street in New York, and think that's okay, because it's not, right? So what are you actually doing to your kids, right? So what you're going to hear in this moment is about all of this. This is not written with hate or derision. It's written with as much love as possible. It's written with openness and vulnerability. The idea is you are going to hear a rhythm that comes from my most sacred moment. It comes from a moment where during the Gathering of Nations, or powwow you might say, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, of the native people, when the chieftain meet the braves and the little boys that are coming up that are also being taught how to treat people and how to see people. When this moment is happening, this rhythm is playing. And to me, it is the most sacred thing that I can think of about my experience. When I play it to you, I'm playing it to you in the hope that you will see me. You will see me trying to be open and vulnerable and willing to endure and hurt myself to create something for you. And you will see how open and that vulnerability can maybe translate into how open and vulnerable you are to me. And that maybe you can see my humanity. And then in turn also see the humanity of all the other people that are around you. And so we can make this place better. I love Holland. I don't want to give the wrong impression. This place is fucking dope. But just like where I'm from, there are things that we need to address, okay? So with love, we'll see you guys after the gig. We want to meet you. And remember, the students, you guys get 50% off of all of the records. Thank y'all. All right. One more time, Lawrence Fields on piano, y'all. Chris Fuller on the bass, everybody. Joe Dyson on the drums. Our special guest, Mr. Logan Richardson on the alto saxophone. We want to thank Malcolm Gill in the back on the ones and twos, our sound engineer. Thank you, Malcolm. And so wait, there's one more thing I want to say. So, I'm gonna shout somebody out right now. There's a cat in the audience that the best way to describe him is really just a true friend. He is an innovator. He's helped me in so many ways, just in terms of figuring out like my business and talking through things and working through instruments, and I mean, you name it, the relationship is as great as it can be. And I hope he knows that I love him. I don't get to see him so often. But he's a gentleman that actually builds all of these incredible trumpets and horns for me. There's a guy named Neil Adams. Are you out there, Neil? Okay, all right, he's right in front of me. Okay, cool. All right, now look. Are the guys here? All right, so this is the team. This is the team at Adams that builds all of these incredible instruments. Some of you may know, and maybe some of you have heard, about 2 weeks ago, both my horns they fell out of a van. The cymbals, everything fell on them. You know, it was a mess. So the horns were crushed. And so I came to Europe with crushed horns, been playing with crushed horns for the last couple of weeks, and I finally had a moment to go to the factory today. And they fixed it so quickly, and we just had a powwow and drank coffee and talked a lot of shit. But I just want to say that I love this guy. If you see him, everyone, put your hand in the air, Neil. If y'all listen. So when you see this guy, wait. When you see him as you are leaving here, please give him the biggest hug and all of the love in the world, because he has helped this. I wouldn't have been able to play if it wasn't for him. So Mill, I love you, team, everybody. You guys are the best in the world. Thank you for being here in Holland, and no more Black Pete, everybody. All right. Thank you.